If a rather concerning Walt Disney Company earnings call wasn't enough for Wall Street earlier this week, a new report filed with the SEC by the Walt Disney Company itself suggests that the final payment for Hulu from Comcast and NBC Universal by Disney might be somewhere to the tune of $5 billion. When is that coming? Well, it looks like it's going to be a few months away, and there's some components to it that we need to discuss because this is going to be the next shoe to drop, and where Disney is going to get that money is, well, anybody's guess right now. Renegade Online.
Let's talk about this because you have to understand people are getting confused. Yes, Araxis, I know you were kidding. No, I got it. I know. But I laughed at the comment. It was so good. I need to clarify, and everybody, we all need to clarify this one. And let me preface what I'm about to say. I'm not trying to pick on the guy. I'm not. But I was sent a video today. I guess it was a clip from a live show that he did. Another YouTuber, John Campia, out there was talking about, wow, Disney showed profitability in DTC for the first time ever. And this was mid-afternoon. This was after we concluded our live stream this morning covering the earnings call. And I'm like, all right, yeah, here we go. And I don't really blame him for it. Again, I blame Disney for it because this is kind of how they operate. The fact of the matter is, and what everybody needs to understand, Disney showed they did the same thing last quarter. On one page, they showed that streaming, DTC, made a profit. On another page, it showed it made a loss. They did the same thing this quarter. The reason is you have to understand is whether or not Disney is including ESPN Plus in whatever calculation you're looking at. Technically, he is correct. But what most people are thinking about when they think of Disney streaming, they're associating it strictly with Disney Plus. Disney Plus is not making a profit. I don't think Disney Plus is still close to making a profit. I think they're probably still $100+ million in the hole every quarter. I'd be shocked if they weren't. The reason that entertainment direct-to-consumer was at a $19 million loss. They showed a profit like you see on this chart here, right? This thing, y'all can see my cursor swirling right here. They're showing a slight profit of like $20 or $30 million or something ridiculous like that because they added ESPN Plus back in. If you look at all of streaming combined, Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN, they made a teeny tiny profit. That's where that's coming from. But Disney changed their financial casting in the last year or two. They used to have ESPN, Hulu, and Disney Plus all together reporting as direct-to-consumer. They still do in one section, but it's kind of a comparative metric to what they had before. Let me put it this way. The way they're doing it now is they've broken ESPN out. ESPN and ESPN Plus are reported under the sports segment or the ESPN segment. Direct-to-consumer now streaming when they show it is only Hulu and Disney Plus. ESPN Plus eventually will be merged into ESPN's premier streaming service. They're going to be combined. I honestly don't even care about ESPN Plus right now. That's really not an issue. The issue is what they are doing with Disney Plus and Hulu. And Disney so far has never given us a breakdown of Hulu and Disney Plus. So of the $19 million loss, how much was contributed by Hulu? I suspect none of it. I suspect Hulu is actually profitable because it's been an advertising juggernaut for a very long time in streaming. And people that have worked in that industry can tell you that Hulu was basically the gold standard when it came to streaming. That's what everybody wanted to sell, or all the advertisers wanted to buy streaming ads for was Hulu, because of its very, very strong viewership. I suspect that Disney Plus is basically dragging the numbers still into the negative. I'm 90+% sure on that. Okay. When you look at the viewership of Disney Plus, you look at the lack of significant growth, in my opinion, of advertising on Disney Plus. I just, it's one of those things that it just doesn't sit right. I don't know if that situation is due to the fact that obviously the Walt Disney Company is still in negotiations with Comcast for the remaining stake of Hulu. And we talked about that this morning. There's a report out there currently that suggests that Disney could be on the hook for $5 billion. Now, I did a little bit more digging to see, okay, where did this come from? This was a statement from Disney. I believe actually it was on, let me see if I can find the article for you guys real quick, because I want to make this super clear. Because we didn't know at first if this was going to be an issue of it could be more or could it be more. Let me go back over here and let's pull in Diz. I think it was an article down here on Yahoo Finance. Here we go. Yeah, it was Yahoo Finance. I want to show you guys this. This is important. In other words, according to this, $5 billion is the ceiling. And I'll show you why. Okay? The battle over Hulu's value appears far from over, with both Disney and Comcast's NBC Universal at odds over just how much the streaming platform is worth. In an SEC filing tied to Disney's third quarter earnings, this was another SEC filing that Disney made today. And instead of pulling up the actual file, let's just read from this because they're quoting from the filing. Okay? The company warned, Disney warned, that it might have to pay an additional $5 billion for Hulu. News that further pressured shares in early trade after the entertainment giant reported disappointing results in its parks business. Last year, Disney announced it would pay Comcast, NBC Universal, $8.61 billion for its stake. They've already paid that, to be clear, for the people watching, maybe some new viewers here. They paid that in cash, insofar as we know, because they know contractually $8.61 billion is definitely what they're going to owe. They owe at least that, because that was the minimum agreed to value of 20. That's 1/3 of it, of $27.5 billion. So when you had Hulu owned by Fox, Disney, a little piece of Warner Brothers had it at one point, and Comcast, of course, Disney bought Fox, so they acquired Fox's stake in Hulu. The last other person not named Disney was Comcast. That's where that came from. Now, for those of you that don't remember, part of the agreement was, okay, NBC and Disney need to each find out what they think Hulu is worth. Each of them hired their own independent auditing firm and business valuation expert team. Disney, of course, their experts said that we think Hulu is worth less than the minimum value, in which case Disney would just owe the $8.61 billion and we all go on our merry way. On the other side, Comcast said, screw you. Our guy says that Hulu is worth substantially more. So they couldn't agree. They were more than 10% apart, or whatever the stipulation was in the contract. They had to hire a third-party valuation expert. So this is what Disney is warning about this process in their new SEC filing. If the third appraiser's fair value determination, which I think, was it Morgan Stanley? No, I think Morgan Stanley did Disney's assessment to begin with. I don't remember who it is right now. If whoever this third party is, appraises the fair value determination equal or below the guaranteed floor, Disney doesn't owe Comcast anything else. If the third appraiser's fair determination is consistent with NBC's valuation, Disney would be required to pay NBC an additional amount of approximately $5 billion to cover the difference. So this is important. if the valuation expert errs on the side of what NBC says Hulu is worth, and they say, no, Disney, you're way off. We're not even in the middle of it. We're all the way over here. We believe that Comcast had the correct valuation. Therefore, you owe them another $5 billion. It shouldn't be above that. It's going to be somewhere between Disney's valuation and Comcast's. But if they err all the way to the side of Comcast on their valuation, Disney owes $5 billion. What I think is more likely to happen is scenario number 3. If the third-party appraiser's fair value determination comes in between Disney and NBC's, the incremental amount would likewise be between 0 and $5 billion. In other words, if this expert comes back and they split the baby and they say, okay, Disney was half right, NBC was half right, our appraisal is dead center of y'all's two appraisals. Thereabout. Okay, they're going to owe NBC Universal about $2.5 billion. So it doesn't look like it's going to be more than 5. 5 looks like the ceiling. So obviously, I think we're going to be between 0 and $5 billion. That's what we're looking at. And Disney says they expect a final decision on this deal during fiscal 2025. So we're still at least 4 months away. 4 months from whatever the results of this thing is getting announced or anybody knowing what it is. We may be into next calendar year, for all I know. This thing is taking a lot longer and dragging out more than I anticipated, which might be a good thing for Disney in that case. But the reason that we bring this up, what's important about this, guys and girls, is this. I don't think we're going to see, and I think this is why we have not to this point seen the Walt Disney Company actually segregate the data from Hulu and Disney Plus. They're putting them together in DTC, and they're talking about merging them into one unified thing and this and that. They are still two very different services serving two very different audiences. I think Disney has been reluctant to do this because they don't want to share that much data about Hulu out in the public, because then it might make Comcast's case much stronger. And then once they combine Hulu and Disney Plus, ultimately, we may never know. They'll wrap everything together and hide it by the time this deal is closed. But I suspect strongly the Disney Plus side of this equation is dragging DTC's financial performance in the dirt. I firmly believe that Hulu in this case is much, much stronger. When you look at their average revenue per user that Disney reports in their own financial data versus Disney Plus's, when you look at the advertising scale, it's kind of night and day. In fact, let me scroll back up here. I believe I have it. Yeah, here we go. Let's go right here. This is the current third fiscal quarter. This is where we're at. All right, here we go. Disney Plus, core, $7.22. Let's even give them the benefit of the doubt. Disney Plus domestic. Let's just take North America, U.S. and Canada, right? Their most lucrative markets. $7.74. Look at Hulu SVOD, which is, you don't have the cable subscription, right? $12.73 a month. That is up almost a whole dollar, almost 8%. Disney Plus was down 3% from the second to the third quarter this year in terms of ARPU, average revenue per user, from $8 to $7.74 domestic. In the same place, Hulu was up 8% from $11.84 to $12.73. Of course, they had some price hikes, right? But people stick around Hulu. My wife loves Hulu because there's a lot of stuff on there she loves to watch. Now, Live plus SVOD, that's basically a cable. You have a cable subscription. You're getting a cable subscription delivered through Hulu. So all the stuff like from Warner Brothers and TBS and TNT and True TV and Court TV and Fox News and CNN and blah, 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 blah. Like a regular cable package all comes through Hulu. Now, of course, with Hulu plus live TV, that $96 looks like, oh my God, that's a ton of money. Remember, they're having to pay out other carriers to get their programming in there. They have to pay Warner Brothers and Paramount, and yes, Disney even pays itself for ESPN and the Disney channels to go on there. So there are costs involved. But the point is that Hulu, from a revenue standpoint, and advertising-based Hulu, right? Ad-based Hulu, I think, is what? $8 a month, $9. It's about the same price as Disney Plus. It might even be a little bit cheaper. Look at how much more money it generates per user. Why? Because that's where advertisers want to be. They want to be on Hulu because that's where the bodies are that are watching TV. They're not on Disney Plus. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.